Hi, I'm Beth Monahan. I am the CEO and founder of Ink House, and I'm joined by Stephanie Craig today. Welcome.
Hi.
Hi. I would take like any excuse to talk to her, but luckily it's relevant to our work. So in public relations, as we are so focused on storytelling, and very often that is written storytelling, but we understand the value of visuals in bringing a story to life. And so I was lucky enough to be photographed by Steph of Steph Craig Studios. She's located in Holyoke, but she does work all over New England. And I went to her studio in Holyoke, and it was just one of the most profound experiences of really being seen. And so I wanted to have her talk to us about how she goes about telling the story of a person. So Steph, my first question for you is about your intake process, which I found to be really unique. You answer a list of questions about things you like. So what are a couple of the questions you typically ask people?
Sure. I think probably the hardest part about my job, and when I have somebody come into my studio, is getting to know the person. Specifically a stranger I've never met before, and they're coming in and they want to be seen and they want these images to reflect, who they are in the world. And I know nothing about them. So my goal, really, one of my questions is to use 3 words, or pick 3 words that you use to describe yourself, and then 3 words that others use to describe you. And these answers can be totally different. The words that people use to describe themselves sometimes can be self-deprecating. They tend to be more self-deprecating than the words that other people use to describe you, but that's very helpful for me, because the more that I know about a person, specifically their insecurities, the more I'm going to be able to kind of minimize those insecurities and maximize the things that they do feel really good about. Or, if they write like they're happy, or they're, people see them as friendly and welcoming, I'm going to try to do more of a lighter image than something that feels really like dark and moody,
I generally am really sad. No.
And sad. Yeah. I do tend to like go towards more like moodier images, but for me, I think that just comes out of like finally getting a person to look at me authentically. And I try to have deeper conversations with people while I'm shooting, so that they're maybe in that mindset of like, who am I really and how do I want to be seen? We all have these personas on social media that can be very different than who we actually are. And the goal is like to create images that represent who we really are, and to push that out on social media, because I think there's so much that isn't authentic.
Well, I love that stuff because, one of the things I wanted you to talk about were some do's and don'ts for having your photo taken. And the reason I was thinking about it is exactly what you just said. It's like it's the person versus the persona.
Mm-hmm.
And in my work, I'm trying to uncover the authentic story of an organization. And you're trying to uncover the authentic story of a person. Because by the way, like that's so much more relatable to other people, as opposed to the perfect persona that I want you to think that I have.
Right.
I mean, I am perfect, but
we all are, really.
Of course. So can you talk a little bit about how you tell people to prepare, like do's and don'ts for coming as your whole self to a photo shoot?
Yeah. I think the best way I can explain this is a mistake that I made myself when I was photographed recently, which I had a friend photograph me, and I hate being photographed. So I was incredibly nervous. And now I was like, oh, now I know how my clients feel. And it really opened me up to, what that feels like before a shoot, like the mindset that someone might be in, like, cause I was a mess. And I was like, what am I going to wear? So I went to my closet, went to the back of my closet, and I grabbed like 3 dresses that I just thought, when I bought these, I were like, these are the coolest dresses I own. And like, I want to look this cool.
And you never wear them?
And I never wear them. And so I wore that, and the photo after, I was like, it's me, but it's not really like who I am. Whereas like I would recommend, you know, I do ask people to bring something like that, something that they just feel special in, something that might be like, this is how I want to be seen if I'm like going to like a fancy dinner or on a date or something. But then also you should probably bring what you wear when you like get up and you're having one of those really great days and you're just like doing your own thing and you're going to go to work in a cafe. For me, it's just like a pair of Target overalls and like whatever shirt I find underneath and my favorite pair of sneakers. Like that I find clients like 9 times out of 10 always prefer those images where they're just wearing the thing that your go-to outfit.
No, they feel like themselves, right?
They feel like themselves.
Mm.
And it makes me hesitant to say like, don't bring any busy patterns because maybe you wear busy patterns and like a photographer is like, ugh, you know, like that's really hard to work with. But at the same time, if that's, you know, who you are, then we can work with it and try to make that work. It might not work, but we can try.
That's really nice. Yeah. So when you're doing a shoot, how do you know the moment when you got, you know, everyone calls it the shot, but got a really good shot? Like, do you know in the moment?
I think sometimes, I think most of the time for me, it comes down to expression. So it's like that magical moment. There's so much that goes into like that perfect shot. You know, there's the lighting and the backdrop and the pose. But once somebody's in a pose, you kind of have to let them be in the pose and not feel so stiff. And so I do a lot of talking to my subjects, which means that I do a lot of culling through my images afterwards to take out all the shots where they're talking. But for me, it's that moment, you know, when they look at me as a person and they're not looking at me like I'm a camera, you know, and I don't know, I think it's a personal preference for me. I will look at another photographer's images and I'm like, that shot, you know, everything came together, but something's missing. And when I really think about it, it's always their expression. It's like, that doesn't convince me that this is like authentic. And some of my favorite photos of all time have that like strong expression. You see it a lot in journalism, like a real moment where somebody's just looking at, you know,
like when they're not forcing a smile, right? Like when they're just,
or they're like looking to the side and laughing because I've said something very stupid and it's made them laugh.
Oh, it's so nice. And do you find that do people choose those photos usually?
Yeah, I would say that they do most of the time. The one that I feel like this is the strongest, they're always like, I love that one. You know, I feel like that's like a real image of me. Yeah. So, you know, but there have been times when I've found an image and I'm like, this is amazing. And they're like, meh. I'm like, okay, didn't get it that time. But a majority of the time when I see it, I'm like, okay, has some, you know, strength.
And does a good shot ever shift in the editing? Like, do you ever have a favorite shot at first and then go through editing, and does that change?
Editing is really important to me. And I don't think that images change. They do change, but I think really they just become stronger. You know, I think when I'm shooting, I'm probably like 85-90% of the way there. You know, it's lighting, pose, backdrop, expression, and then but like the color isn't right, or like the emphasis isn't right. I do a lot of sort of like darkening certain areas of the image and lightening other images or other parts to kind of draw your eye. So I would say that the shift happens, it just becomes more a powerful image, you know, kind of like becomes a full image.
That's beautiful. It comes alive. Yeah. Okay. So tell me a little bit about, you know, do you think, I guess the question is, do you think of your work as telling the story of a person, or is it more of like capturing moments in time? Like, just tell me how you think about that.
I think it depends on the type of portrait. So I do a lot of studio work, which is really, you create the whole image from the backdrop to the lighting to the posing, and it's not very complicated. It can be, but there's no distractions. It's just a person on a backdrop. So for me, coming back to that expression is really where the story lies. You know, the way in which they're looking at me or not looking at me, and the way that they're posed, if they're sitting more relaxed or if they're, you know, sitting very strong and doing like a power pose. Like that's where the storytelling occurs, you know, and how you photograph different people is going to be different for every person. You know, like Michelle Obama is photographed in a very specific way and always looks really strong. And then there are other people who like, that's not really their personality. But when I do editorial work, for me, it's all about the environment. So putting somebody in a space that is, you know, fits their personality and who they are, and then lighting it appropriately and working with all those different elements to really make them look as much like themselves as they can, and just waiting. It's like you put somebody in a spot and then you just wait for them to sort of like let their guard down and be themselves, and then show me that, you know, with expression and their body language.
That's so nice. All right, I have one last question for you, which is, what is the most inspiring part of your job?
Oh, people's reactions to their photos when I deliver them. Like it gives me the goosebumps sometimes.
I know. Well, I cried when you gave me mine. So
yeah, and that's common, and that's what brings me back to this work all the time, is that I have like that power over somebody to create an image that makes them feel like they've been seen or heard, or they're proud to like put in the world to be like, this is who I am. And that person is going to change as you age. So I've had clients come back and be photographed again, and they're a very different person and they have very similar reactions. And I photographed a lot of moms in particular who maybe their kids are a little bit older now and they just haven't put themselves first in a really long time, or felt beautiful. And then, you know, they come in and they have hair and makeup done and they just hang out, and at the end of it, they see the images and they're like, I just haven't felt like I look like that in a very long time. And for me, that's the most special thing about what I do. And for me, it's like, this is sort of your legacy, you know, like we all are going to die someday, and how you are remembered. A lot of people don't get photographed, and, you know, they might just have cell phone photos of, you know, what they looked like. And for me, it's like, you know, I have this really powerful image of my grandpa before he died. And for me, it's like, I'm always going to have that to remember him, you know, and I'm just so lucky that I get to do that for work.
You're going to make me cry again. No,
I promise we will hang out and you won't cry at least once.
I love crying. It's great.
Great. Good for the body.
No, but it's true. I mean, I got the pictures and I was like, well, I'm going to frame these for my children and that's how they will remember me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. That's cool.
Don't look at the other photos.
Yeah.
But anyway, all right, Steph, thank you so much for taking time to talk with me. It was really inspiring. And for those of you who want to work with her, we'll put her contact information in the link here.
Thank you.